Great. Hey everybody. I want to do a follow-up video in regards to my last video that kind of cut off because of my phone storage, where I was basically at the point of talking about how a child's brain is in how children are in a different brainwave state than adults, and why this information is extremely important to help parenting, getting children back toward a natural life. This is extremely crucial information, and I really genuinely believe that if people actually understood how their bodies worked, they would have not disrespected their bodies as much as they have over the last 50 years between, let's just say, gluttony, drugs, tons of promiscuity. If you understand all of the entanglements on an energetic level, the physical and the logical physical reality is highly woven and interconnected with our spiritual bodies. And so this information is extremely necessary, especially if you want to be a parent and you haven't haven't had a child yet. I do want to share an example that I was not able to share the last time before we dive into this. And there was, when I came back from the Camino and I started having these more Christ-like experiences, I did join a young adult kind of Christian organization. I think it's called Home Church. I think that's the name, or Church Home or Home Church, one of the two. And essentially, they were at the time, I was in my mid 30s. I just turned 39. So they were about the same age, maybe a little bit younger than myself. And they were, they were a young couple pastor, and they had 2 children. And, they were a little more linked up to the real world in terms of, like when Kanye West had all these, started talking about Jesus and rapping about Jesus, they were like, this is amazing. They were believing that a lot of these things were happening on a, like God's changing the hearts and minds of people, when it's reality. The reality is, like, a lot of it has been brainwashing and programming. So where I want to go with this is because they would do a lot of these organized events that their children, they would do a lot of social events too to get kind of young Christians together in Seattle. And I would say that they were, definitely appalled with Seattle and the lack of interest in Christianity, which to me doesn't seem that big of a shocker. But, they were also innocently tied up to progressive politics in the realm of, from a good stance, from a good heart. They wanted the best for people. So where I'm going with this is, she approached me the one day and basically the phone and YouTube were the babysitters. And so she came up to me, the wife of the pastor. She was a couple years younger than me. And she's like, I don't understand. She goes, my kid, my 2-year-old just came up to me and told me, I hate you. And she's like, I don't understand where that's coming from, because they never heard any of that stuff come out of our mouths. And in my head, I'm like, how is this not fucking obvious that the YouTube and the programming from all this crap that these kids are watching online, that's been the babysitter, and that has been the brainwashing effect of these kids. So where was a 2-year-old, or she might have been 3, she was able to talk, but she was young. Where was she able to develop that consciousness to say, I hate you, to your mother? Let's think about this. So good-hearted people have followed along with the trends of America, and unfortunately, and I don't want to say this to shame anybody, I don't want to say this at all in that light, because I myself, like the yoga in India and all that stuff, the metaphysical stuff was part of the awakening process that broke me out of all of this consumeristic bullshit that I was also programmed into. I had a mother who loved music and movies, and I ended up liking music and movies, and there is a level of programming with all of that you have to break free from. So if you're not familiar now, before, I actually wanted to do this video like 5 or 6 years ago when I first started this channel, and I never did. And at that time, it was really difficult information to learn. But I do remember when I went through my yoga studies in India in 2007, is that we did learn about the type of brainwave states and how it affects, consciousness and things like that. So over the last few years, they've actually thrown in a 5th brainwave state, which is the gamma waves. And essentially, if you're looking at this chart, you might have been able to look at this chart the last 4 minutes I've been chatting. We are in that more awakened state in our beta waves, which is where we're kind of primarily in our processes every day, the logical mind. And the deeper you go toward the delta waves, it's a lower hertz and frequency. This is where we're in when we are in that deep sleep, but this is where a lot of children are their brain waves, they're naturally in the delta brainwave state at a very, very young age. And this is why the programming is extremely essential to protect a child's brain and mind. And what is being put into a child's brain is because this is all of your subconscious. Most people today, they are operating consciously, but subconsciously there's absolutely no awareness unless you go through a lot of deprogramming, psychological training from a good psychologist, not a woke one, but or things like yoga and meditation and deep breathing can start to snap you out of this. So there is a really good article on YouTube, which is not YouTube, I'm sorry, LinkedIn, how brainwaves can help a child and a parent. I can link all this, but like I said below, I'm having a hard time linking stuff. So you can kind of like read a little bit of this as I chit chat, but some of the things to know is that between the ages of 0 and 7 are the programming years. So essentially, the children are in that lower that lower and slower hertz of the brainwave state, which is part of that creative process. Now, I know a lot of really religious people do not like Rudolf Steiner and say that he is an occultist. I don't really know if I have an opinion, but I do say like anthroposophic medicine is actually pretty brilliant in a lot of ways. And I went to Rudolf Steiner's farm when I did the whole Velleda thing back in 2017. And what I am going to say is that there is a difference between the Waldorf schools, which those have completely sold out in 2020. I mean, imagine a school. So the Waldorf schools, Rudolf Steiner knew that between the ages of 0 and 7, those, you're pretty much in your creative mind. So when you're in these lower brainwave states, that this is where a lot of that creativity energy comes from. So essentially what Rudolf Steiner's Waldorf schools were promoting has been a lot of the exploration, like the children should really be heavily involved in the arts between the young toddler age and 7 years old. They should be working on a lot of, I'll just say like creative work. And if you think about how our society is changing, I mean, there's 3-year-olds that are going to like these science prep daycares, or at least engineering prep daycares. So children today are being kind of stripped away from their natural inclination to want to be a kid and to want to, run around and play and make art and like shit. I remember when I was young, when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I took a Ziploc bag and I was making all these like potions. I was like sticking twigs and berries and dirt and stuff in a bag, and we can dive into that, but like past life stuff. But anyways, where I'm going with this is when you're in these lower brainwave states, as the person is stating, the author of this article is stating, that it is kind of like the same state that you're in during like hypnosis or meditation. So if you do not want your child to be programmed, you have to start living old world alternative lifestyles that are just natural in general. So when I mentioned this stuff about the Waldorf schools, that is, you know, a completely different mindset than a lot of the Montessori schools. I don't know a ton about like the history of Montessori schools, but it is just a different level of I guess programming. Because if you know, we look at like the artists today, it's like there's all those memes out there that's like the artist that went to college versus, you know, the 1800s and before, where people were creating beautiful things. So in reality, we really are stripping ourselves from the creative mind, which is also tapped to our spiritual and higher self, and we're just completely driven through logic. So between birth and 2 years old, the brain functions primarily in the lowest brainwave cycle. These are your delta waves. Adults in deep sleep are in delta, which explains why a newborn can't remain awake for more than a few minutes at a time. So essentially, like I was saying with the child psychologist who was saying the high frequency waves that comes from these, you know, these are all crystal devices, it is going to be very detrimental to the child's brain, and you are starting the programming process before, when you're sticking these programs from, you know, whatever, YouTube and all of that, you are programming your child at that very young age. Essentially, a lot of the programming actually starts in the womb, which ultrasounds and stuff have a completely different level of discussion. But, you know, where a lot of this natural birth is trying to go back into the old ways of living is because the ultrasound is such a high level wave and frequency that it disrupts the spirit. And some people have claimed that the spirit leaves the fetus during these moments of high frequencies that they're experiencing during an ultrasound. So children between ages 2 and 6 are predominantly in the theta. So they're, you know, in that realm of imagination, daydreaming, still not able to show signs of critical, rational thinking. And then between 5 and 8, we change into the alpha frequency. And then from, let's see here. And then from 8 to 12, we primarily start to go more into where adults are in, which is the beta cycle. And so there's another really good article if you want to learn more about this on Elite Learning. It says the brainwave frequencies which underlie language development. This also discusses the same thing, maybe a little bit more research based if you want to look at any of these references. But yeah, from 12 years and onward, you're moving more toward the consciousness, the logical processes. Let's just say your adult brain, like we're going more into this realm. What's great about this article is, if you do want to review it a little bit more, is that this is talking about the levels of breath with the brainwave state that you're in. So essentially, if you are in a high beta consciousness, you are in higher beta waves of 25 hertz and over. It's associated with anxiety, shallow breathing, as well as anger. Where was the other one? Excuse me. I still have this damn cough. The deeper, I read it earlier. I should have highlighted this. This is all stuff I learned so long ago that it's like I don't really remember a ton of it. Let me think. I know they was talking about deep breathing and that deeper brainwave state. Where can we go? Calm consciousness. Lipton equates alpha waves with a state of calm consciousness that can facilitate our own inner body and emotional awareness. Yeah, let's see. That might be... where is it at? Gamma. Well, I'm sorry. It might be in this first part of the article. In the first shifts of the brain waves is at 2 years old. Oh, crud. I can't, when I turn this off, I bet I will find it. But essentially, there is that general correlation between the brainwave state that you're in. So when you're in your deep sleep, if you ever heard like your partner breathe while they're in a deep sleep, or you're hearing them snore, you can hear that the breath is kind of longer in general, so longer and deeper. It's the first sentence. Okay, in adults, the delta band frequencies are associated with a dreamless sleep, very deep breathing, slow heart rate, and cooler body temperature. So when you're in like Shavasana and yoga and things like that, or a yoga nidra, generally you're tapping into these lower brainwave states. Traditional ancient yoga is, the goal has been to lower the heart rate and kind of slow everything down. The West, we've once again inverted it with all this power yoga and crap like that, where we just use it as this, form of exercise to kind of tone the muscles and break a sweat and things like that. But old traditional ancient yoga, I guess it depends on the lineage between, like a hatha yoga as well as like an Ashtanga yoga. There is a difference. But even in the Ashtanga yoga part of it that I learned, which had a little bit of a Sivananda influence, it still was talking about slow and deep breathing. You were holding poses for a long time. It wasn't just this up, down, and around type of thing. You did that during a sun salutation. So I hope this is helpful. I will link this stuff down below. Sometimes when I do videos, I'm like, oh my God, I remember studying this like 14 years ago, and I don't remember a lot of it because I don't look at like skeletons and crap all day. It's like I just work with normal people in classes and privately. But this is essential. So if you want to understand where the system, where our society has gone to, this is basic analytics. Like I've talked about in former videos, we need to bring back just your basic logical analytics. The baby boomers were the test tube babies for the television. They birthed their little, millennial kids who were then, raised on television. Our 70s, 80s babies, and then everybody after have been raised on a television. And then you couple that in with technology. My generation, I had an Atari and all that when I was young, and we, that sure was fun as a kid, but now we're looking at children born with access to the internet and access to technology that has never been accessible to humans in its entire history. And look at what is going on. And then look at the spirit that is behind all of these beautiful devices that have a bite of an apple out of it. So there is a spirit behind this. And children today, I do always, spirituality is talked about how you're born innocent and programmed into this culture. And maybe that is true. Sometimes now that we kind of know the system and how it's all operated, that you kind of wonder if some spirits are just born in that satanic cycle, and they're just kind of born evil. Maybe I need to talk about that dating experience where I really think that guy was a part of the system. He had experiences at the very young age with like demons, and my spiritual experience was like with whales. I'd cry to whale sounds and shit. That my mom bought me a cassette tape, and I would cry by the beautiful sounds of these whales, and I felt so bad for them getting harpooned and stuff in the ocean and whatever. But this is critical. So it is this information. If you want to share it to people, you can do a basic Google search. And I would say that before 2020, you couldn't really find a lot on this. And so all this stuff, this is from 2021. I was trying to go through like an old yoga book, and I think I somehow lost the book through some of my moves, but I couldn't find this book anymore. And look, this one's from 2022. So this is like, I'm not saying this is old information, but this is information that has not really been talked about through any sort of mainstream publication. It was like, if you studied yoga or holistic health, you would totally know and understand what it is. So I remember when I was trying to do a video on this in 2018, I couldn't find any like, you know, charts or research or evidence to kind of help back some of the stuff up that I'm saying, because nobody at the time has been taking like yoga instructor people seriously. And so, excuse me. Yeah. So, we've gone too far in consumerism and technological use, and I will just share this last example before turning this off. If you want to listen to it, if not, you feel free to leave. Everything is a choice, and going through this technology wave and boom is also a choice. You can use this stuff for functional, practical, everyday use, or you can let it rule your life. And I had a client that right at the tip of Alexa coming out and certain other smart technology coming out, she immediately changed everything in her house. She got the Alexa device. She changed her wiring to her lights on these smart meters, or wherever the lights, I think, might have been like hooked up to Alexa, and she would just say, Alexa, turn on the lights or turn off the lights. And I was like, well, why are you doing that? And she's like, well, I'm getting older, and you know, and this is like somebody in their 50s still in the workforce, and she's like, well, I'm getting older and the future is technology, and so I got to keep up with the times, and it's like this is how it's going, so I'm going to get on it. And that's completely, I'm not shit shaming her for her choices, and it's a completely different mindset, but all I'm saying is this stuff is a choice. Following along is a choice. I told you about, I have some of my old and young antique friends. They still have fucking flip phones. They don't have Facebook. It's if you want to have a better quality of life, you got to start decreasing the tech use and start living a more natural social lifestyle, which is now getting a little harder for some people. So anyways, I hope this is helpful. And if you know anybody that is struggling with parenting, I hope that some information or a video like this can help bring a little light bulb effect, because the damage is being done. The damage is accelerating extremely hardcore. With the crap that's come out over the last few years. I mean, I've just recently saw that some classrooms are putting litter boxes in their fucking classroom because a child is identifying as a cat and as a furry, and it's like, where is this going to end? It is getting really scary. So it is time to take back the parenting and start to equip yourself with this type of knowledge of how your body works in this form of science that is proven time and time again. You cannot trick the body at all. The system knows what it's doing. This is why the agenda has been going toward younger and younger children, because this is the brainwave state that you can program people. This is why they call it the programming years. And somebody like Rudolf Steiner understood that you're in your most creative mind when you're in these lower frequencies and the Hertz frequencies. So this is why it's essential for children just to play and be imaginative and draw and create, and not be on these stupid fucking cooking shows to compete to the next I don't get this country anymore. This country has become insane, and it's become insane because it's been led by the most insane, evil people. So it's time to take it back, take your power back, and start changing stuff. All right, have a great day. Thank you all. Bye-bye.